Now, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said this morning that the U.S. is inching closer to a deal with TikTok. Here he is talking to reporters in Spain after a second day of trade talks with China.
We have a framework for a TikTok deal. The two leaders, President Trump and Party Chair Xi, will speak on Friday to complete the deal, but we do have a framework for a deal with TikTok.
Now let's bring in CBS News Money Watch correspondent Kelly O'Grady. Kelly, good to see you today. Any indication that ByteDance is now open to selling?
Well, this is going to be the really interesting piece of this, because ByteDance, of course, is the Chinese owner of TikTok. And the fear going back to why this is all a thing is that a Chinese-owned company having access to U.S. user data is a matter of national security concern. Now, the Chinese, President Xi, they are going to have to approve any kind of deal, whether ByteDance wants to sell or not. So perhaps there's some element of incentive that they can provide that company, especially because this is part of larger trade negotiations that are happening in Madrid, and it follows a number of other meetings between the U.S. and China. But I think the really important piece to me, and as Aaron said, we don't have that many details, but is the deal going to be for all of TikTok, just the U.S. portion of TikTok? Is it going to include that very important algorithm? As I just said, there are national security concerns about access to user data. So it would follow that likely the new company or the new owners, because it might be a consortium of investors, not a particular company, but they would have to rebuild an algorithm that is sort of up to snuff in terms of what users have been able to experience and have enjoyed about the platform before. So a lot of interesting questions when it comes to the actual business execution of this. But as of now, we don't have that many details coming up, but hopefully that will come soon.
Yeah, and we know, by the way, that tariff negotiations continue with China. So could this deal give China an upper hand when it comes to those negotiations?
So it's definitely one of the factors, right, that they're talking about. But you also have to think about a couple of other pieces that I personally think are more important from when you talk to investors or economists. One is just giving Beijing access to U.S. businesses and consumers, right? They are an export economy. And so being able to sell at a lower tariff rate to people like you and me, that is really important for them to continue growing their economy. That would be one piece where you might argue they don't necessarily have the upper hand. But then the other important piece of these trade negotiations beyond TikTok and some of these other factors is access to the most advanced semiconductor chips. China has made some statements about antitrust issues when it comes to that big chip maker that we have here, NVIDIA, selling into their market, as well as national security concerns about using their types of chips. So there is that sort of whole other piece of this that is definitely a very important part of those negotiations beyond the TikTok deal.
Yeah, certainly sounds like it is. A lot to unpack there. But Kelly O'Grady, as always, thank you for helping us understand all this. We appreciate your time today.